Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lisa, and in this video, I want to discuss the cowardly narcissist. Now, deep down inside, all narcissists are cowards. Sure, they boast, they brag about themselves, they display a sense of entitlement, and of course, everything needs to be about them. But beneath that grandiosity is a weak, cowardly individual. Now, both men and women can be narcissists, of course, but for the purposes of this video, I'm focusing more on male narcissists since they tend to use more forceful methods of manipulation and intimidation than females do. So, for example, the male narcissist who flies into a rage, screaming, yelling, threatening, and intimidating their female victim, they're targeting someone they perceive as weaker, so they're only going to release their temper on women and children. And just like any other bully, they only feel powerful doing this to those that they see as vulnerable, to those that they can intimidate and frighten into submission. These guys are afraid of other men. Now, they may talk badly about other men behind their backs, but they cannot confront them face to face. Here is an example. My narc ex-husband and I attended a party. At that party, there was a man who was pretty loudly expressing his political views. And these were views that my husband did not share. Now, my cowardly husband did not say a word in opposition to anything this guy was saying because he was afraid to do so. He wasn't trying to keep the peace because it was a party. He was afraid to do so because if those same things were being said by a woman, he would have had plenty to say. In fact, some of the things that this guy was saying were the very same things I had said before to my husband. And in that case, I was met with huge opposition and chastised for very loudly, as a matter of fact, for my differing opinion. But you see, he was intimidated by this guy because he saw him as highly successful, and he was a successful man and wealthier than my husband. So not only did he not speak up about his difference of opinion, he actually acted like he was of the same mindset. In a video I posted previously, there's a clip of my ex screaming at my daughter. Now, this same event actually would not have ever happened with my son because my son is a grown man. My daughter is barely over 5 feet tall. My ex is over 6 feet tall. So he felt confident raging at her because he knew he was bigger and that he towered over her. He knew she couldn't retaliate physically, but he knows a full-grown man could and possibly would. In the 7 years I was with him, I never saw him explode at anyone that wasn't female or a child. He really was and is the ultimate wussy boy, no doubt. And I've dropped a link for that video that I'm referencing in the description box below. Think about the worst rages you've ever seen in the narcissist. Now, did they rage at you in front of others? And if so, did they do it in front of other men? Because I'm going to guess not. There was literally not one time that my ex-narc threatened me or screamed at me in front of another man. Now, he did it in front of my kids. He did it in front of his kid. He did it in front of his kids' friends. He did it in front of some of my female friends. But never, not once, did he ever do it in front of another man. And there were many times that he would get upset with some of his son's friends, and often that would even include his son. And he would go on and on a big old rant, telling me how he was going to break it down to them when he saw them. But when he did see them, he was passive. He was meek. And honestly, he just seemed afraid of them. I used to think, how can he act so aggressively with me and so passive with others? Why do I have to listen to him rant about this person? But to their face, it's a whole different story. And that happened all the time. The narcissist needs their primary source of supply, their intimate partner, to be someone that they can easily threaten, someone they can intimidate. Remember the bullies in school? They were only tough to those who were physically smaller or weaker than they were. They were only tough when they had their buddies with them, cheering them on. Just like the narcissist flying monkeys cheer on the narcissist. But in the case of the school bully, What happened when someone finally stood up to them? If someone did, what happened? You probably found out they really weren't all that tough. In the movie The Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy and her friends first meet the Cowardly Lion, what does the lion initially try to do? He tries to scare them. And who does he go to pick on? Toto, the little dog. Now Dorothy, who's scared at first, finds the strength to stand up to the lion because she's protecting her dog, and she slaps the lion on the nose. And the lion's response? Not only does he back down, he cries and whimpers. And this is what happens to the narcissist when you stop being their victim, which means you got away from them and you went and stayed no contact. And when you stand up for yourself, especially if you expose them for who they really are, they respond the same way the Cowardly Lion did. They back down and whimper and play the victim. And just like the Cowardly Lion in The Wizard of Oz, the lion had no problem bullying Dorothy and her companions. But when Dorothy stood up to the lion, he cried and tried to gain sympathy, conveniently forgetting that he started all this nonsense in the first place. So when you stand up to the narcissist by leaving them and exposing them, they conveniently forget anything and everything that they've ever done, and they're going to work very, very hard at making the victim out to be the villain. We have emotional responses that are based in one of two ways. They either come from a place of love or a place of fear. Anger, for an example, is a surface emotion. Beneath that anger is fear. Narcissists live in fear, and the anger, the resentment, and the nasty behavior that they exhibit are fear-based responses. They fear loss of control of their victim. They fear being exposed for their true selves. They fear being abandoned. And this is why they're going to try to be the one who ends the relationship if they fear that their partner has figured them out and is planning to leave them. That fear keeps them from actually working to repair their damaged relationships because they simply find it easier to just seek out a new person who doesn't recognize them for what they are. Staying in the relationship that they're in and working on solutions is foreign to them. They can't exist if the person that they're with no longer believes their lies, because to do so would be to admit that they have a problem. They'd have to admit they're not perfect. They'd have to confront their childhood wounds that caused them to be a narcissist in the first place. And that is way too scary for them. So they need the people around them to support the false persona that they project. People who see through this are going to be discarded by the narcissist, whether that be friends or intimate partners. You may even notice that the narcissist friends are either relatively new people that the narc hasn't known for very long, or people that the narc doesn't interact with often enough for their mask to slip. So people that they maybe only interact with via phone, over the internet, and very rarely see in person. During the time that I was with my ex-narc, he met so many people and he invited the people to our home. And after being around him once or twice, I just never saw these people again. They actually found him to be rude and pretentious, and they just never came back around. Well, that wasn't until I left and exposed him anyway, and then I heard from several of these people who were more than willing to speak out, and speak up about what they really thought about him. And I found out all kinds of different things that he said that, they didn't like, and he wouldn't even know because he thinks everybody loves him. So it is impossible, absolutely impossible, to have a healthy, authentic relationship with a narcissist. It is impossible to have a mature, adult relationship with someone who operates from a place of fear. Because if they're operating from fear, they're certainly not operating from love. And they never will. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen, and may you have a blessed day.